Welcome to Mind Exploits Online Exam Tutor. I would like to share with you my story to help you understand why it's important to practice with past questions. With time, in other videos, I'm going to tell you what steps you need to take to be able to have a good grade or a good score in your JAMB exam. I was in SS3 in the year 2001 when I wrote my first JAMB. And I had 161. Of course, you would assume or believe that I was not even an average student because I could not even score up to 200. But my time was the time when we write the paper-based JAMB test. And the best students at our time even never scored up to 300. The best students in some of the sittings initially was like maybe 250 something, went up to 260 something, 270 something. My year, I think it was about 287. That was the best, the highest score in 2001. I'm not sure, okay, but it was not up to 300. It was after Professor Debo Ojerinde introduced the CBT to JAMB that we started to see a surge in student performance. Up until 2015, no students in JAMB ever scored above 300. 2014, 2013, I think the highest score was 298, 299 or thereabout. It was in 2015 that a student had above 300, and the rest is history. Over the years, we've had the best student having scores like 357, 343, 347, 360, and like that. And it has become like a norm because the CBT has made it easier for an objective appraiser of student performance. It eliminates some distraction, some wastage of time, and some human factor. So that has helped to increase the rate at which students pass their examination. So if I had 161, of course it was not a good score, but at that time, if you have 200 and above, you are an averagely good student. After the first year, did my WAEC. I had my WAEC at a sitting, so the only barrier for me was the JAMB to get an admission into the university. So I decided to write the second JAMB in the year 2002, and then being at home, I bought past questions, I read my textbooks, I revised some of my old notes, which are essential to pass anyway. But when the result came out, I had 201. Of course, to have 200 in my days, like I said, you must have done a very deep study. But it also means that at 200, 201, you're just an average student and you need to step up your game. So with that, I could possibly get an admission to the university, but I had to take a change of course. I wanted to study economics. My parents wanted me to study accounting. So I've always make my first choice either economics, my second choice accounting, or my first choice accounting, my second choice economics. So I knew I can't get an admission into economics department or accounting department, which are the two most competitive departments in social sciences at that time, with my 201. So I was advised by an uncle to take a change of course to sociology, which I did, and I was hoping that I was going to get an admission because some of our colleagues already in the university, some were already doing A-level to join the rest at 200 level, and I was already at home for almost a year. But lo and behold, the admission never came through, so I decided to take the third JAMB. By that time, I saw an improvement from 161 to 201. So I knew working with my past questions gave me a little edge because I saw a bit of some questions that were familiar based on my practice before the D-Day. So the third time, I decided to enroll for an extramural and I practiced more with past questions series. And when the result came out, it was fair. I had 228, and that 228 was good enough for me because at that time, even for the competitive subject like economics and account, the cutoff point officially was about 210, but the department cutoff really was around 215, 220 at that time. So I knew I was safe. But what helped my progression as I sat for JAMB year in, year out is, like I said, the fact that I gave myself into practicing with past questions over the years. and that was boosting my preparedness and confidence for the exam. I was already familiar with some of the questions that they were going to ask. So that was my experience for JAMB. Now, while I had 228, I wasn't too sure and I was not ready to gamble because I really wanted to enter the university. It was like about the second year after I've left school. So what I did was I persuaded my parents to please enroll me for the A'Level IJMBE. At that time, I think I paid about 47,000 naira. That was in 2001. So it was obviously like a whole lot of money because at that time, I think the exchange rate was about $1 to 65 naira. It wasn't up to 100 naira at that time. So that gives you an idea. It's more or less like having to pay today like 500,000 naira value of, that money. So I persuaded. So they gave me part of the money, 23,000 naira, which I used to enroll in Ilorin, the capital of Kwara State at that time. Having seen the improvement in my JAMB results, given that I practiced with past question, as soon as we got into the IJMB class, we got the necessary material, but more importantly, I bought the past question for the 3 subjects I was offering. I was offering account, business management, and economics. So I got the questions. One of my senior uncle gave me that of economics. So I now decided that every day I must treat 1 year question. So that was like my norm all through my IJMB days, such that by the time I was writing the IJMB exam, I had treated some of the past questions about 7, 8, or more than 10 times. Are you here with me? I'm telling you my own experience. So literally, I was really familiar with all the likely questions. And what I saw while I was treating those past questions, there are publishers that did it like a series for us, the questions and the answers. I could see a pattern. There was this repetition. You could find a question asked in 1992 being repeated in 1997, being repeated again in 2001. So I saw that pattern. And that made me to pay more special attention to my IJMB series at that time, more seriously, because I saw that these exam bodies were not asking new questions. They were just recycling questions year in, year out. So luckily for me, before 3 months to writing the IJMB exam in 2004, I think, I got admission to study my dream course, economics, in the University of Ilorin. And of course, somebody will have told me that there's no need for you to go and write your IJMB level again. After all, you've gotten what you wanted. But because I've invested a lot of preparation into that IJMB program, in fact, that was where my tutorial journey really started, because I was involved in teaching some of my mates economics accounts together with some of our other brilliant colleagues at that time. So I felt I wanted to write the exam and know what I'm going to have as a result. There were about 5 of us that wanted to have 16 points. If you are familiar to IJMB A'Level, if you have A in all your 3 subjects, JAMB IJMB will dash you 1 and you have 16 points. So we were driving towards having 16 points. And we were really working towards it. So luckily for me, after 2 months being in school in University of Ilorin, we had a riot and we had a strike. That strike fell into the period when we were to write the IJMB. So that gave me the opportunity to travel to Oro. That was the center where I was writing my IJMB exam from Ilorin. And I traveled there, stayed with my colleagues, wrote the exam. Now the truth about it is, when I finished writing the exam, I knew what I was going to have. Because you see, all the questions I treated in accounts, I was already familiar with it. There are 2 parts in accounting, part 1 and part 2. I think the part 1 is more of financial accounting, part 2 is more of cost accounting, partnership, and all those complex accounting, departmental account and the like. So there are 8 questions they're expected to answer 5. So out of the 10 questions I answered, 9 of my account balanced. So I knew I was going to have A in that. My economics, we have microeconomics and macroeconomics. The 5 questions I saw out of the 8 questions in both micro and macro, there were questions I've treated over and over in past question series. The management, which is principle of management, and I think elements, if I'm correct. The same thing. Saw questions that I was very familiar with being asked again. So it was just like I saw an expo before I went to write the exam. So I knew I was expecting nothing less than a 15 or 16 points. I didn't really necessarily have to disturb myself praying that seriously about the fact that I wanted to pass. I knew that by the virtue of the fact that I had prepared with past question series, I was really very familiar and close to being successful. And when the result came out, even though I never used it to secure admission, because I already was studying economics, I came with 15 points, and I was always proud, and I'm still proud of the fact that I went through that exercise and I came out fully. But what really helped me was the fact that I developed a culture of preparing with question and answers. And lo and behold, by the time I got into the university at my 100 level, I had already gotten questions asked in previous years up until 400 level. So I've been to students in 200 level, 300 level, 400 level. The ones that I know are serious, I'll say, please, do you have past questions that you are using for your set? I would photocopy, and I kept. So the experience I had, I was also involved in tutorial. I led and coordinated tutorial in my university days as well. I taught students in my class. I taught students in lower levels. And what I did was basically the fact that I was always focusing on past questions. So when I got those questions from them, I asked them, okay, who taught you this year? Who taught them this year? Who taught them this year? So I will have written a name of all the lecturers that taught those different years to the years, so that I would be a little bit familiar to their questioning style. So while I was in the university, I was teaching extramural classes in town. I was mixing that also with some other extracurriculum responsibility I have in places like churches and fellowships or whatever that I belong to. But still, with all my engagement in so many extracurricular activity, I was privileged to graduate the 3rd best student in the Department of Economics 2007, University of Ilorin. And really, I knew other students that read deeper than I do. Not that I don't read, but because I was involved in so many things, I don't do too much deep reading. Of course, one other thing I do is that I read during the holidays. So the things we're going to do in the next term, I've actually read through them. But more importantly, I was always focusing on the past questions. And the reason why I did a little bit better than some of my colleagues was not necessarily because I was smarter or more intelligent than they are, but because I was always very familiar with past questions. And that helps me to come with a conclusion of the fact that the best expo a student can be exposed to is effective and efficiently answered past questions. And that is why we have created this channel, Mind Exploits Educational Consults, to bring to your table an efficient way of answering external examination questions, from common entrance to NECO BESE to SSE, WAEC and NECO to JAMB UTME exam to IJMB A-level to JUPEG. We are going to be providing you with efficient style of answering questions in this examination, so that students necessarily do not need to focus on examination malpractices. They can actually focus on the knowing of what is expected of them by these exam bodies to guarantee their success in their external examination. You don't have to sit for that WAEC twice. You don't have to repeat or recite your NECO BESE. Okay, you don't have to write IJMB more than once or twice. Like me, you don't have to necessarily write your JAMB 2 or 3 times. There are more resources today, and we're also part of the creation of that resources online for you to help you, equip you once and for all for success in your external examination. So I welcome you on board. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend that wants to succeed without cheating, that here comes an online exam tutorial class where we treat past questions with answers to help you prepare for a one-time excellent result in your external examination. So I would advise you to join us on Mind Exploit Educational Consult channel to learn, relearn, and to prepare yourself for whatever exam you are preparing for, in as much that it is based on the Nigerian curriculum. This is the best place for you to be. And please tell your friend, encourage them to subscribe to this channel. If you are a parent, help your child to subscribe to this channel and guide them to ensure that they are always here to learn the right ways questions are to be answered. Aside from treating of questions, we're going to be giving pep talks on helping students to move from poor student to an average student, to move from average student to an excellent student. Nobody came to this world with any form of genius. It is the more of the preparation, your intentionality, your passion to learn that with time grows you into a genius that you desire to be. So please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Mind Exploit Educational Consult, and get the best for yourself. Don't forget that the best way to prepare for any exam is to prepare with the exam past questions. Why? Questions are not newly set. Most questions are repeated or recycled in subsequent years. Thank you and enjoy your day.